tonight, presentations, and we'll do the first one with Mike Gilroy from the Air Pollution Control District. Good evening. Come on up here. We have the cameras facing this way. Okay. We have a very lovely proclamation for Mike. This is the Mayor's proclamation designating the month of May as Clean Air Month. Whereas the month of May is designated as Clean Air Month, designated to raise public awareness about the need for every Californian to work to reduce air pollution. Americans across the country and here in Capitola are working hard to help limit the pollutants that cause climate change and reduce their impact on the environment. Clean air is vital and important to our health, environment, and economy. Due to longer days and warmer temperatures, the month of May is typically the start of the area's ozone season. Small changes in our daily lives can have a big impact on our environment. We can walk, bike, use public transportation, buy products with less packaging, recycle, reuse paper, plastic, glass, and aluminum. We can choose energy-efficient products, turning lights off, unplugging appliances, and cutting back on heating and air conditioning. Along with the Monterey Bay Unified Air Pollution Control Board, Capitola's commitment to environmental protection and public health results in some of the cleanest energy in the nation. Increased public awareness efforts during the month of May and throughout the year will promote actions by Capitola citizens and businesses that will help keep the air clean. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the City Council and the City of Capitola recognizes May 2013 as Clean Air Month and encourages all citizens to join in the effort to live and work in ways that will ensure cleaner air and better health for our community. And if you'd like to say a few words, please do.
I would. Thank you. First, I'll just say that the Air District is very pleased to be able to provide services to the City of Capitola and its residences. We have a diverse suite of services we do try to provide, and we're blessed in this particular area with a lot of good fresh ocean air that help us with it, but as the proclamation says, there's a lot of work to be done. I would also be remiss if I didn't say a couple of words, and at the risk of embarrassing the Vice Mayor, who sits on our board. Mayor Story, or Vice Mayor Story, is really helpful to us as he gives us leadership, direction, and very thoughtful support. And we pay a lot of attention when he's there. So he embodies much of what's in that proclamation for the residents here. So we thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Mike.
You bet.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you very much. Thanks for coming to our meeting.
My pleasure.
And if I may, Mayor,
Certainly.
I want to acknowledge you, Mike, and thank you for that compliment to me. But really, you know, it's really the staff that does all the hard work to make sure that we continually have clean air. We all tend to take that for granted because we do live in such a beautiful place. But I can tell you, being the representatives of the City of Santa Cruz on the Air Board, we've seen many issues over the past few years. The CEMEX plant and with the mercury contamination that took place. And the Air Board staff really stepped in and took control and monitored that situation. And more recently, emphasizing the wood smoke burning and the open burning that has taken place in the San Lorenzo Valley, which had become a huge issue and problem up there, and the staff really took control and established controlled permit burnings there, did a stove retrofit program in the valley, and it's made a tremendous difference. We get a lot of feedback from the residents up there about the improvements that it's made in the air quality in the valley. If many of you have ever been up there on those cold winter days when there's a lot of burning going on, you know what we're talking about. So, Mike, I want to compliment you and the staff and the excellent work that you do for our Central Coast area and keeping our air clean. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Next, we have Linda Dossett, Flotilla Commander of the U.S. Coast Guard, Auxiliary Flotilla 610, Capitola. We have a proclamation in recognition of National Safe Boating Week, May 18th through May 24th, 2013. Whereas recreational boating is fun and enjoyable, and we are fortunate that we have sufficient resources to accommodate the wide variety of pleasure boating demands. However, our waterways can become crowded at times and be a place of chaos and confusion. While being a marvelous source of recreation, boating to the unprepared can be a risky sport. Not knowing or obeying the navigation rules or the nautical rules of the road, drinking alcohol or taking drugs while operating a boat, or choosing not to wear your life jacket when doing so is clearly not the smart thing to do. One particular behavior that can reduce the number of boaters who lose their lives by drowning each year by approximately 80% is the wearing of a life jacket. It is a simple task that has the potential to reduce terrible loss of lives. That is why we must continue to spread the messages of boating safety not only during National Safe Boating Week, but also throughout the entire year. Flotilla 6-10 Capitola will continue efforts to educate the boating public by offering boating classes, free vessel examinations, promote safe boating, and encouraging the wearing of life jackets. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the City of Capitola does hereby designate the week of May 18th through 24th as National Safe Boating Week, and urges all users in the water, inland lakes, rivers, the Monterey Bay and coastal Pacific Ocean areas to safeguard their lives by wearing life jackets when boating, attend a safe boating course, exercise safe boating practices, and adopt the slogan of "Wear It." Congratulations. If you'd like to say a few words, please do.
Thank you. I'll keep it very short. Just thank you very much in supporting us and helping get the word out to everybody about keeping safe, and remember to wear a life jacket. It's an increasing message that we're trying to get out there, not only with the boats, but with the paddle sports. We have seen deaths almost quadruple with the paddle sports, so we just need to get that out there, that life jackets are important. So thank you very much for your help.
Thank you for all your good work. Thank you very much. The next item is a report on closed session from our attorney, Mr. Barasoni.
Thank you, Mayor Harlan. The items that the City Council discussed in closed session this evening are listed on the first page of the Council's posted agenda. The Council met with the City Attorney and Assistant City Attorney Adair Paterno with regard to the Schrodel versus City of Capitola matter pertaining to Pacific Cove relocation benefits. We provided the Council with a status report on that matter, but took no reportable action in closed session. The Council heard again from the City Attorney, Assistant City Attorney Adair Paterno, and the City Manager with regard to exposure to litigation with the Surf and Sand Mobile Home Park pertaining to the applicability of the Mello Act to the currently pending subdivision application. We provided the Council with a status report on that matter, and will report back to the Council and the public with regard to settlement negotiations, hopefully at the next Council meeting. The Council then heard from the City Manager, Jamie Goldstein, and the City's labor negotiator, our Administrative Services Director, Lisa Murphy, with regard to ongoing negotiations with the Capitola Police Officers Association and the other city bargaining groups listed on the posted agenda: police captains, Capitola employees, confidential employees, mid-management, and we just provided a status report on those negotiations and took instructions with regard to ongoing negotiations there. Due to time constraints, my performance evaluation did not take place, although it was listed, and the Council then heard briefly from the City Manager with regard to the tort claim of Dominique Townsend. Took no action on that matter in closed session, but it is on the council's open agenda this evening with an action recommendation for denial. And that's the end of my report on closed session.
Thank you very much. The next item is additions and deletions to tonight's agenda. Are there any? Then we'll go to the next item, which is public comments, a chance for anyone in the public to come and address us on any item not on the agenda. If it's on the agenda, please wait till we get to it. Good evening. Please sign in if you'd like to have your name spelled correctly in the minutes.
Mayor, council, staff, my name is Lori Hill, and I'm pleased to be the president of the Capitola Begonia Festival this year for our 61st year. We return on Labor Day weekend with Capitola Magic. That's our theme this year. Your all-volunteer committee has no other purpose than to set the stage for 4 family-friendly days of free events that celebrate Capitola's history. Attracting thousands to Capitola, the festival supports business, it supports tourism, but more importantly, it supports ties to family, traditions, and ties to community. I'm here on behalf of the committee to thank those of you on the staff, on the council, the staff, your commissions that give so much of yourselves for the Begonia Festival. We really appreciate that. We thank our business partners. More importantly, we thank all the community volunteers and everybody who comes out and plays on that magical weekend. We thank you for your sponsorship. Last year, the city found it necessary to charge the festival for the very first time $6,000 in impact fees. That's 20% of our budget. The festival's annual request to the city has not changed in nearly 10 years. All we ask you to consider is to try and make us whole this year if it's possible. Please acknowledge the unique 60-year partnership that the city has had with the Begonia Festival. Consider what the festival brings to Capitola and the ongoing value of cultivating volunteerism and partnerships. Let the volunteers focus on the logistics of this event. And trust me, there's a lot of logistics. And we do it so well, and we deliver the best possible festival that we can. We invite you to our fundraiser coming up on Sunday, August 4th. It's Bewitched at the Brook. Again, we'll be at the Shadow Brook. We encourage you to send your friends to our upcoming Float Builders Workshop, which is going to be on June 15th. This is an opportunity for people who have thought about building a float that can learn about the logistics of how to go about doing it and all the wonderful incentives that we provide to keep that nautical parade lively and fun. Send any new volunteers to our monthly meetings. We meet the first Monday of the month right here at the City Hall complex. And we ask you that you continue to be the fine host to the Begonia Festival that you've been for 6 decades. Thank you for the time. If you have any questions about the festival, please contact our website, begoniafestival.com. And I wanted to debut our poster for this year and present it to the council. Our poster for this year, Capitola Magic.
Here's the microphone for
The
you.
question was, who is the artist?
Oh, the artist. Okay, now in my... Ben Davis. Thank you. Ben Davis, Jr. is our artist this year. A little Monet approach to the Begonia Festival. So, thank you.
That's
Again,
gorgeous.
Appreciate
That's
it.
a gorgeous picture. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lori.
Thank you very much, and I also encourage people to get out and support the festival and volunteer. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of hard work, but it's a lot of fun. And it's a wonderful group activity if you want to get your family and friends together or you want to get your business together and work on a float. It's great. Good evening.
Good evening, Marilyn Garrett. And first I want to welcome the Cypress students who are here today in the audience for our government class taking notes. And I also want to encourage the students to speak to the City Council about any item not on the agenda, because elected officials need direction from the public, the citizens, and the youth. So as you're sitting there, and you might want to think of something you feel is important to express, do it. As I was listening to the presentation on this being Clean Air Month and saying let's limit what causes pollution, and we need public awareness, and you said live and work in ways that encourage clean air. I would agree with that, and I would say we also need structural changes that prohibit pollution of the air. For instance, when I taught in Watsonville first, second, and third grade, I would have to take my children inside the classroom because pesticides were being applied to the field directly over the fence from the school and blowing over the school grounds. It was horrific. What we need is like prohibition of toxins that go into the air, into the water, into our bodies, into the entire environment. And we need to require ecological and organic agriculture so we are not poisoned. Also, another source of air pollution is the microwaves from wireless technology. And before I've given you excerpts of a publication that was translated from the German titled Bees, Birds, and Mankind, Destroying Nature by Electrosmog. Electrosmog is a huge issue. And when most of us were born, not these teenagers, this was practically non-existence. But with the telecommunications industry and the military use of microwaves, it's proliferated dramatically. I'll leave you with excerpts of this. Also want to say, Madam Mayor, I saw you at the Democratic Women's Club forum where they rebroadcast the interview with you and the mayor of Santa Cruz. And I remember one of the things you said was that we need to vote basically in the interests of the community, and projects that are not, I'm paraphrasing, in the interests of the community, even if it's an unpopular vote, that it is the responsibility of elected officials to vote in a way that represents the people. In terms of this wireless technology, you can start here by replacing the wireless microwave damage that is taking place in this room and in this city by having wired Ethernet or a wired solution like you had before. You have friends who don't come here because they feel so ill from this toxic exposure. Let's have you act in a way that's protective of the public and protective of your children and the youth here in this room, and do whatever you can to halt this electrosmog. There was here, even the firemen know of the dangers of this. In 2004, the International Association of Firefighters, after tests were done, brain scans comparing firemen living in firehouses with radiation-emitting antennas on the roof and those not, they found that the firemen were experiencing, like being in a brain fog, headaches, coordination off, slowed reaction time, tremors. And because of the results of this test, and they're seeing the same symptoms in students exposed to Wi-Fi, the firemen voted they wanted safety to be assured first. And that tells you how dangerous this is, because the strongest of the strong being so adversely affected is very definitive among other factual information you've
Thank you very
received.
much for bringing us this
Thank you.
information.
And one other article, will the telecom industry be the final straw in our planet's ecosystem, by Barry Trower. I will also leave with you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Would anyone else like to speak? Good evening.
Hello, I'm Sandy Erickson. I live here in Capitola, and I've been running around asking budget questions. As y'all know, I'm not the biggest fan of government always having its hand out asking for our money. And one of the questions that I've been asking is if anybody knows what drives overtime and various things in the police department. Well, I'm here to report that I had a very nice meeting with Chief Escalante. And I think that he probably has the best attitude towards providing service of any police chief in the 15 years that I have been here. And so I think it was very productive. And I think he represents us well. I think he has a handle on what's going on. I think that too much, though, of city budgets and everything else are on autopilot. And all we do is layer on. And so I do very much appreciate him meeting with me. I am sorry that I missed the budget meeting last night. I was glad to read in the paper, though, that the sidewalk down Park Avenue looks like it, I keep saying, in my lifetime. And, you know, maybe I will live long enough to see it and to walk on it. The other thing I want to bring up tonight is within the past hour, I have had a nose-to-nose meeting with a pit bull that was unleashed in my neighborhood. And when I finish here, I'm going to call Officer Booth because I called and made a report about that. And I think there are so many things that are important to the citizens. Unleashed dogs, as we all know, and from the child that was recently mauled at Rio Del Mar, are dangerous. And these I'm sure the people who own this dog are going to say it's not a pit bull, but it has cropped ears, and it looks very much like a pit bull by whatever name you want to call it. And I wish we could give as much attention to unleashed dogs as we gave to the big threat of having somebody open a gun shop in Capitola. You know, so if we could get our priorities a little more lined up, I would really appreciate it. But I think I think we have a good police department, and Chief Escalante and I talked about some things. You know, I'm never short of offering up suggestions about how we could save money. But I think definitely he is a good representative and is doing a good job. And I thank y'all for giving me this opportunity to speak to you, and I hope we can get a handle on these unleashed dogs.
Thanks.
Thank you.
We need to encourage people to call if they see one. Who else would like to speak? Okay, then we'll go on to council and staff announcements. Are there any staff announcements?
I have one.
Okay.
The American Red Cross Blood Drive will be at the Jade Street Community Center on Wednesday, June 5th from 12:30 to 5:30. And the donors may enter to win a trip to LA for two and a Warner Brothers Studio VIP tour. And there's some brochures in the back you may pick up. And if you do donate blood, you need to bring an identification with you. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Any other staff announcements? Any council announcements? Dennis?
The state of California mandates that we have an affordable housing element. And over the years, we've established one. And part of our affordable housing element is that we allow larger lots to produce secondary or granny units of a certain size, depending on the size of the lot. In recent months, Soquel Creek Water District, as well as Santa Cruz City Water District, and the Sanitation District has put ordinances into effect that controls that how that service is given to those units. And to give you an example is any new applications for secondary units now requires that they have a separate water and sewer hookup for that secondary unit. Even though the lines in service are adequate for serving both units, and their justification for that is that they don't have any control on how much water a person uses if they live in that secondary unit. Well, the intent of our secondary unit was not to establish living residences for large families. It was for a grandmother or a single person or whatever, possibly a couple, to do that. And so, if I am correct, we have not had an application go through with the city since they're established this new requirement. Since they established this new requirement, and that we may not have any in the future. When you add $30,000 right off from the start for water and sewer hookup fees for no reason at all, or very little reason, you're actually damaging our affordable housing program and our ability to provide secondary units as we have committed as a city. So I would like to start with that we direct staff to investigate this and see what the true story behind this is, have maybe some of the water districts explain this to us, and that we agendize this and actually approach the water district and the sanitation district to consider reversing their stance on this, and I think we have good justification for it. So.
Anything else, Dennis? Okay. Sam?
No.
Ed? Mike?
Yes, a couple of things. We had a great Art and Wine Festival kickoff and fundraising celebration last week. And I will announce more as we get closer to that. Speaking of events, on June 8th and 9th, we have our car show down on the Esplanade. Probably the best car show in California, I'll say that. And your Art and Cultural Commission, in addition to the lovely art that we're starting to place around the chambers and the police department, we're working on an art app for iPhones, and we might even include Droid, I'm not sure, but that was just for the city manager. And it will tell you about our public art around town, and we're trying to incorporate the historic element with the museum and include historic buildings as well. More to follow. And just when I thought I was neck and neck in the popularity poll with Chief Rudy Escalante, he wins over Sandy Erickson. I give up. I give up. That's all I have, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Chief, do you have an announcement?
One announcement. On Monday, we have our annual ceremony. It starts at 10 a.m. in the lawn area for Memorial Day. So those who are available, you're more than welcome.
What time is that, Rudy?
10?
10 a.m.
10, okay.
Right, but while the chief is still there, how was our gun buyback program in Capitola?
In the day that we had, it was 4, and there were 25. It wasn't a gun buyback, but a gun give back.
Right.
There were 25 guns recovered over the entire county for that one day.
And I might underscore, no one's gun was taken away from them.
That's right. These were all voluntarily
Unwanted guns that sometimes fall into the hands of criminals who break into homes.
That's correct.
What kind were they?
Muskets? Muskets.
Most of them were older type shotguns and rifles. We had a couple of handguns that come in.
Rudy, are you going to do this again?
We're looking at another time we can do it. We had tentatively scheduled something around Memorial Weekend, but all the agencies are using overtime to cover extra shifts, so we might do something again later on in the year.
Can I suggest something? Is that in the promotion of it, that we actually go to the nonprofits and we go to other different agencies or different people, including ourselves, to help you promote it. We had such a small window to actually get people aware of it. I'm not saying they weren't. They just, there was such a short window that maybe find some way to spread the word out, maybe drawing more people in.
I definitely will take that back to the group. Thank you.
Thank you, Rudy.
Thank you very much. The sanitation district met today, and we approved a contract for design and construction for the Soquel Pump Station Force Main Replacement Project. And this is the one by Nob Hill, but they call it the Soquel Pump Station, but it should be the Capitola Pump Station. As you know, it goes under the river. It's old, needs to be replaced. Smells. So they're going to build a new one. They're going to put it deeper, because this one's only about 3 or 4 feet from the surface of the water. They'll put it deeper, and then they will check the old one and see whether that can be slip-lined, so that if there is a problem with the first one, at some point they can use the other one. So if we think of any traffic problems like we had on Park Avenue or Monterey, or neighborhood problems, let's give them a heads up. I mean, they'll be thinking about that, but let's try to be proactive. It'll be a pretty big project. We also talked about a problem that they have in certain neighborhoods where people think it's okay to pour grease down the drain. and put wipes down the toilet that say disposable when they're not disposable, baby wipes. So they have a program that's called a fog alert, and it's fats, oils, and grease are clogging the sewer pipes on your street. It's bilingual, English and Spanish. And they use this as a door hanger in neighborhoods where they have problems to educate people. So just for the audience tonight, the instructions are to pour cooled fats, oils, and grease into a covered disposable container and throw it in your garbage. Never pour fats, oils, or grease down the sink drains or toilets. Soak up remaining oils and grease with an absorbent material such as paper towels and throw into your garbage. Before you wash the dishes, scrape the food scraps, fats, oils, and grease into your garbage or compost. Do not use garbage disposal. Do not push large amounts of food into your garbage disposal. They really would prefer that you not use garbage disposals, I think. And use sink strainers to catch any remaining food waste while washing your dishes. We have a lot, and here's an example of a product that says flushable handy wipes. That's not flushable. The professional water districts associations and the sanitary sewers associations are working on this to try to get these companies to remove these labels, because yes, you can flush it, but we don't want you to flush it. So there also, we have sanitation trucks all over the county that are used to flush lines when there's blockages from either roots or trees, roots or rags or grease or whatever clogs up the lines. And on the trucks, we're going to be putting some of these kind of signs for education, so when people drive by, they can start to think about it, that they need to pay attention to it and not just pour that grease right down your drain and it just disappears somewhere. So I'll pass these around. These are kind of interesting things. I went to the library today, and we do have a copy of the draft EIR, Environmental Impact Report, for the proposed desalinization project. So if anybody wants to go there and sit and read it, it's 2 volumes. We're going to have get a copy here for City Hall. And also, we may have the opportunity for a vote on it. The Water District hasn't decided definitely, but they're working on it. That's already going to be on the ballot in the city of Santa Cruz, and they're working on it for the unincorporated part of the county. And I think it would be fair they're going to vote for it. Everyone should vote on it, but they have to become very well informed about it, and it's going to be a very tricky subject. It's going to be a very complicated subject. So I hope people will. There's going to be some public hearings coming up on that, some preliminary neighborhood meetings, and I encourage you to go and educate yourself about it, because it's a very, very important topic about water for the future and where we're going to get it. One thing I'd like us to consider is maybe asking them to extend the comment period. Right now it's only 60 days, so I might just write a letter just myself and ask them to do that. City Manager Goldstein and I had a meeting with Superintendent of the Sanctuary, Paul Michel, and staff person Deidre Whalen to talk about Capitola issues and talk about sanctuary issues, and that was a very good meeting. And it's the superintendent's annual meeting with the mayor and city managers of all the cities in and about the Monterey Bay National Marine Sanctuary. So I think that's about all. Anything else? Okay, then the next item is the boards, commission, committee appointments. There are none. So the next item is the consent calendar. These are a group of relatively minor items that are handled with one motion, unless someone would like to pull the item for separate discussion from the audience or the council. Would anyone in the audience like to pull an item for separate discussion? Would a council member like to pull an item?
I'd like to pull a check register.
Okay.
I'll move to approve the balance.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. You want to go ahead and do the check register?
Okay. Actually, starting on the first page, 72825, Santa Cruz Conference and Visitors Council. The payment was $23,000. Is that a portion of that to the TOT tax and a portion of that from the user tax, or is that all just the city's commitment for that for the yearly commitment.
Unfortunately, I haven't seen the check yet. The city's annual commitment, previous commitment to the CVC was $17,000. I know we pay them the TMD on I believe it's a quarterly basis. We submit the TMD that we collect through the TO, with our TOT payments.
So they are paid together then? When we're seeing these figures, we're seeing both of them?
No, I would not think that they're normally paid together, although, like I said, I haven't gotten to that check yet, so I would need to see. What was the number again?
It's on the front page, it's 72825, and so that would be page number. It's page number 32.
Page 32.
It says transit district pass-through.
Oh yeah, it's TMD and
TMD pass-through.
so 19,000 is TMD, and then it's the third quarter for funding.
Okay, does that
Okay,
clear it up?
answers my question.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, the other one on there is the one right below that, 72,864. For design and community environment, the consultants for the general plan update, a payment of $64,000. And I look at the quarters that this covers. It covers February, March, and April. March and April, and a 2-month period. And we had one meeting this whole year with the council and one meeting with the GPAC. And so, is there billing based on what they do during that period, or is it just spread out evenly through the whole length of the contract? It seems like an exorbitant amount of money for the little bit of work that was done on any project within the city. So,
I can answer that question in two ways. The first part is that they've had some trouble with their billing over time, and that they weren't billing, so they got behind. So that's been one issue. So I don't know for this specific bill if it was just for the 1-month bill, or if it did reflect the fact that they'd gotten behind. They transitioned financial systems. But I do know that right now they're in the process of preparing the draft plan for our review. They're working on the zoning code. There's a lot of work. So the front end stuff, the public meetings, you're not seeing, but we have a lot of people working. At our next meeting, we plan, the Community Development Director plans to present the coming schedule and how we're planning to move forward with the general plan. So I think that answered the question.
Jamie, can we see some accounting of this up to date? In other words, how much we paid them so far and where we are?
Sure.
At the next meeting, possibly?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, that's it. Thank you.
With that, you want to make a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Sue, I need to change my vote on A. I need to abstain because I was not at the meeting. I'm sorry, I forgot that. Next item is 9, general government and public hearings, and you're welcome to speak on any of these items. The first item is A, consider approving the Esplanade Kiosk Public Art Project, approving an agreement with Kim Chavez in an amount not to exceed $15,000, and approving an administrative policy, the number is V12, which covers the use of display cases in the Village Esplanade Kiosk. Lisa.
All right, thank you. Good evening. First, I want to just apologize for the artist Kim Chavez. She's had a family emergency, and she wasn't able to be here tonight to present, because normally we do ask that the artists come down and present their projects. So I am here for her. And I think I have some art commissioners here as well that could help. All right, so it's been a while since you've seen the concept. This Esplanade Kiosk Public Art Project came to you in September of last year with the concept. The Art and Cultural Commission presented it, and they went through the process. We did a call to artists, and we had 19 artists who submitted proposals for this kiosk. We had a panel. It was composed of local business owners and art selection panel. So they vetted those candidates down to 3. They had 3 come before the art panel and make their presentations, and then they ultimately unanimously decided on the artist Kim Chavez to construct the kiosk. So now what I have before you, normally, like I said, the artist would be here, would present the proposal to you, and this is your opportunity to talk about it, to make any changes you see you might want to have happen in the design phase of this. And then once you approve the contract, then we will move forward and have the project completed, and then it will be installed. So what I'm going to just walk through where the location and what the project looks like. So this is the location of the kiosk, where the little star is down in the village, and that's the name Esplanade Village Kiosk. And any questions about the location, please stop and ask me at any moment if you had any questions. Okay. The kiosk, actually I have it here. I took a picture of the mock-up. So this is the mock-up of the kiosk. It's three-sided. The height is 88 inches and the base is 42. Now the height includes, on top of this kiosk will sit a bronze sculpture of an otter, which I'll get to. The kiosk itself is made out of stainless steel. And let me just hand this up to you.
Thank you.
Lisa, while you have that up there, you might also note that the legs aren't actually in a V. There's a piece of stainless steel that actually closes that leg up into a solid leg.
Yeah, what you see here is it looks like there's this opening here, but it really isn't. It'll be enclosed inside there. Actually, would you put that up there? You can hand that to me. Anyway, so it's three-sided. The kiosk is stainless steel. It's weather resistant. Like I said, it's 88 inches high. That includes the otter that's going to be on top of, sit on top of the sculpture, the kiosk. The three sides will be display cases, and the intention is that on one side would be for the City of Capitola, the other side the Capitola Village Business Improvement Association, and the other side the Chamber of Commerce. And then we'll talk a little bit, there's some guidelines of how we will use that and who monitors the usage of and what goes in and what goes out of those cases. And then now on the top, you can't see it all that well, but there will be three on each side, a saying on each side. On one side it'll say Capitola by the Sea, on the other, welcome to our village, and on the third side, community information. And it'll be laser cut into the stainless steel. Any questions on the structure itself?
Could you explain the closing of the legs again? Is it coming across this way, or is it
No,
this way?
it's a flat piece that is bent so that the legs become boxes. So they're solid.
They're solid on the inside.
They're solid on the inside. There's no V. Bring me the model and I'll do.
I can picture it.
You can picture it?
Yeah, I can see it. Thank you.
Any problem with...
Oh, that's Sam. I saw a question
well,
marks.
yeah, I was kind of not clear initially, but you're talking about this arch will exist. It will just be closed in across this leg frame.
It's a solid piece along the legs all the way up to the top, so there's no crevices and sharp angles.
Right.
Collection of trash.
Trash, yeah.
Yeah.
Any problem with graffiti?
Well, it's stainless steel, so it should be resistant. I think you can remove it. If we need a graffiti coating, I'll find out about that, but our intention is to keep it from being vandalized, of course, as any artwork. That could be difficult. But
The poster cases are stainless steel and they're pre-manufactured, so they're glass faces with locks and, you know.
Is the purpose of closing this in because the mounting hardware will be in there? Is that?
that's right.
So because this is not consistent with the concrete underneath it with the village plan, if we wanted to move this, wouldn't be a big deal.
No, it's going to be bolted in, and then if it needed to be removed,
It's just unbolting and relocate.
Right.
Okay, great.
Right. Okay.
And we had one years ago, and it was wood, I think, and people would just put pins in their pieces of paper and to announce whatever they had.
And that's not the intention. So here with a glass case and it being locked, so the policy would be only those three entities, the Capitola, the Village of Improvement, the Chamber, and the City, would only be able to use those and put information in there. And the City Manager's Department would, monitor what's in there and remove things within,
No lost cat signs or anything?
No lost cat signs, no sale, advertisements, that kind of thing. I mean, yeah, unless the city wants to put the last cat sign or something.
And we're hoping that the BIA comes up with a map of the village showing all the shops, and they could have it would be a nice display for them.
Yeah, okay. So now, as I move to the next slide, the bronze sculpture of the otter that will sit on top of the kiosk. Now, this is a clay model of this sculpture. It's a work in progress. Please provide any feedback that you feel on the look and feel. I actually just had a conversation at about 10 minutes before we came into the city council meeting with the artist to talk a little bit more about her ability to make changes in it, and she assured me that absolutely she can.
Do you have the latest photographs, the ones, because she's starting to change, it's starting to take shape?
Yeah, so here's this one I just got from her about a couple of days ago, and I talked with her because I have showed this through, to staff. I've showed it to another council member. I've showed it to some of our panel members. And the concern has been the nose being too long. And so tonight when I talked to her, she assured me that the feedback that if we provide on the sculpture is she will take and she will be able to incorporate, because this is just the clay sculpture she's working on at this point. So
Already started?
she has started on the clay sculpture of it. Mm-hmm.
The clay sculpture is used to make
The casting. Yeah, yeah. Okay. This is just another look of the clay. Okay. So right now I just have, these are the two most recent I have.
She lives in Oregon. They have beavers up there.
And like I said, this will sit on top. So before I move into talk a little bit about the policy that I'm going to ask you to adopt to regulate, what goes in the cases, I want to get your feedback on the sculpture.
I'm just a little hesitant because I'm new to the area, and when I think of a sea otter, the position that I think of is the traditional sea otter on his back with maybe something in his hand, easily recognizable to people. And I must admit that my first appearance, I wasn't sure whether it was a squirrel or a beaver or a dog or and so I'm sometimes you can recognize things from a distance. Maybe this is an attempt at art to be different and not traditional, so I don't want to stifle that. Just want to throw out that comment.
Right. And we had that discussion, and the feedback I'd gotten from the artist was because it does sit quite high, if it was on its back, you wouldn't see any of the features because it's too high. So that's why she turned it onto the belly, I guess you could say.
I guess if it was on a 30-foot building, I might be more inclined, but the height is 7 feet? Is that the top 7?
Yeah.
Just to...
yes, absolutely.
Just a comment.
Now, Mike has a picture that, when was yours done? Because the one that he has, it does look like a sea otter rather than a...
I've got another photograph that he was working the nose, and the nose is a little foreshortened, and there's more detail. We tried to explain to her, we tried to explain to her that, it didn't look furry enough. And remember, it's going to be cast in bronze. So she's working to accentuate the furriness so that it really stands out. But it is, we sent her more and improved pictures of otters. And, a bronze piece can only be so otter-like because otters aren't made of bronze.
Mike, you're going to go up and you're going to see this before it's cast, right?
I'm taking a trip up there in a couple of months.
In
and
Oregon.
Hopefully
then I have great confidence in you bringing home something that is an otter, because if you don't bring back one, might as well move to Oregon.
I second that confidence. Okay, right.
Well, so much for the Grand Canyon. I guess I'm staying up there. I'm going to actually go up and watch it being cast at the Foundry, because I'm fascinated with the process.
I have difficulty with this form of the presentation. It's hard to make a judgment between where we are now with a two-dimensional just photograph of a casting and then what the final product is going to look like. Now, if we're basically leaving it up to Mike, and Mike, if you're going to have the wherewithal to say that doesn't work for us, then maybe I can go along with that. But this just seems very difficult to judge, and then to determine, well, what in real life, what with these materials and with this sculpture is it really going to be when it hits the pavement? So that's what I'm struggling with.
Sure. When the art panel looked at her past work And that goes into part of the decision-making process, not just on the actual proposal in the drawings, because that's what they go off of at first is drawings. And then, but we looked at her work and felt that her professional artwork was quite extraordinary and quite lifelike. It was very beautiful, and felt based on her past work that they would have the confidence in the project and what she comes up with will be.
So they saw a portfolio of previous projects that she had done after installation in real setting.
Yes.
So, okay.
If I was technologically advanced, I would put you on her website so you could see her. I bet you could.
Yeah, I mean, if she's having trouble doing an otter, maybe she should choose another topic.
Her birds were another consideration of doing birds, and the art panel, which I was not part of, felt that the otter made more sense. It was our request. It wasn't, you know.
I don't know that she's struggling. I think what you're seeing, and it's hard for us, maybe non-artists, to realize the process and the iterations that they go through in sculpting and trying to perfect what they have, and this just happens to be where she is in her process. That's something she reiterated to me this evening was, remember, it's a work in progress. She goes through numerous reiterations as she tries to develop what she feels is, what she's striving for, what she's after.
She hasn't finished removing the clay that's not an otter.
Oh yeah, this is far from being done. He's actually going to try to pull up the website.
Yeah, I think to support what Councilman Story said, it would have been helpful if we could have seen some of her completed works, just to get an idea of what.
Get that onto your. Oh, just start at one and we'll just go through them. They're all.
Here we go.
Where are you going? Where does she live?
Portland.
Second to do the Grand Canyon.
Tsunami.
Can you get off that one?
That's nice. That's nice.
And these are all bronze. There's a polar bear in there that's really pretty.
Can we choose one?
Yeah, look at the polar bear. That's a really amazing one.
The birds are really amazing.
There you go. Oh. Yeah.
That's sweet.
You know, they're all a little bit surreal, and in that type of castings, that's not unusual. You know, you can't get something exact and real life looking from that type of metal. I think that the representation that she's coming to, I have confidence in our Arts Commission and the process they went through, that they're making a good decision here, and I have confidence in Mike going up there and getting it. I'll move for approval of this application.
Is there a second?
Before we go there.
Oh, we have to have a public hearing.
Okay.
Okay, I'll second. But carry on.
I'm going to open this to the public. Would anyone like to speak on this topic? We'd love to hear from you. Then I'll close the public hearing and bring it back to the council.
Yeah, I have a motion, and again, I have great faith in the Arts Commission. They spent some time on this thing, and they went through a process with other artists, and I have confidence in Mike going on and seeing it before he comes back home. And the other thing is that makes me more comfortable is I'm not real comfortable with the location yet, but the idea that if it is the wrong location that we can move it, that's good. It has to be lasso-proof. That's how we lost the dolphin, and so it has to have some strength factor into it. But I'll move for approval.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion?
If I may, Madam Mayor, I did on the location. I guess I wanted to speak to that a bit because I noticed it's in the loading zone, and I know we had considered that previously, but now actually seeing it, and I was wondering why that location was selected instead of whether there's space on the corner there where the kiosks used to be, and where the
next to the sanctuary sign.
Sure.
The sanctuary sign is now. That seemed that would be a more like a junction where more people would likely to see it from three sides. And so if there's still maybe some possibility on taking that, even that interpretive piece that's there now, and maybe having something that would incorporate and work with it, then it could be kind of a corner of public art instead of having it spread out in the loading zone. So maybe just some thoughts for consideration if we can maybe not be fixated on that particular location at this time.
I have to say, we honestly never thought of that because we were trying to get away from the sanctuary pedestal. But now that you mention it and looking at it from this vantage point, perhaps when this is coming in and is being prior to being installed, we could even set it there and look at it, and then set it in the planned place. I mean, we're going to be there installing it, basically.
That's a good idea, Mike, as long as we install it the same day we set it out there.
It has to be, yes. This is going to be actually significantly heavier than the Dolphin, and I think that it's going to take more than a pickup truck and some boys from Fresno to pull this one out.
Okay.
Any other comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Good work to everybody. The next item is B, consider authorizing the sale of a portion of the city-owned property located at McGregor Drive to the Soquel Creek Water District.
Good evening, Council and Mayor. Let me just, I know you're aware of negotiations have gone on in closed session, but I wanted to just make sure the community all knew where the property was and what we were selling, so I created a couple maps here. Highway 1. So this is the McGregor property that the city owns. We used to run a shuttle out of it. It now doubles as a construction yard most of the time. Park Avenue comes up here, so there's the McGregor lot. And what we're selling is a small corner of the McGregor lot. It's a 180,000 square foot parcel. We're selling about 7,100 square feet of that parcel. I know there was an article in a local news agency that said we were giving up development rights and selling it to Soquel Creek Water, and that's not true. The developable area of this parcel is over here, and this is obviously not in that area. So I just wanted everybody clear on that we're selling a small portion of a large parcel, and it does not impact, we believe, future development of whatever we do out there on the parcel. Really quick, the deal points, the purchase price is $100,000. Lot size is 7,110 feet. And then there's three conditions where we negotiated water demand offset options. One is being able to use some water demand offset credits that we got in connection with the senior housing project that we can use on another city project. We've been granted 10 years to purchase 3 acre feet of water for a development of park on that parcel. And we've also been given ability to sell some water demand offset credits we have with the closure of the mobile home park that will all be overseen by the water district. So that's the extent. With the approval of this agreement was approved by the water district on Tuesday night. With the approval tonight, we'll close escrow in approximately 30 days. If you have any questions.
Are there any questions?
I'm sorry.
I want to open it to the public. Would anyone from the public like to come and talk to us about this? Did you say what it was for, Steve? I forget.
They are building a pump station on the site to pressurize their lines.
They came to us.
They came to us. They came to us several years ago. We've looked at probably 3 different pieces of the property out there to try and get this in and not impact development, and we finally settled on this.
Any questions from the audience? Any comments? I'll close the public hearing, bring it back to the council.
Move approval.
Second.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I forgot to announce during comments earlier that the City Council and the Soquel Union Elementary School District are having a joint meeting on Thursday, July 18th, 6 o'clock at the Opal Cliff School in the Transitional Kindergarten, or TK classroom, over at Jade Street Park. We haven't had a meeting with them for a long time. We have some agreements about maintenance of the gym and maintenance of the community center there at Jade Street and some other issues. So we're going to have a joint meeting, and it's open to the public. And my only question is, I hope they have adult-sized seats and not just kindergarten seats. Do they have, because it's a kindergarten classroom. Do they have
Public
They
Works.
will be setting it up for a public meeting.
Oh, good, thank you very
I
much.
think it's good to have kindergarten seats. It keeps our attention.
And you won't want to sit there long.
That's right. That's right.
Talk less.
That's right. Get some things done. We're out
We
of
may be
there.
prone to act like children, though. if we-
Or we might be admonished to play nicely. We'll see what happens.
They always do act as children when we're around.
Okay, the next item is C, consideration of a resolution granting consent to the Santa Cruz County to form a second tourism marketing district, or TMD as it's been called.
Council members, Madam Mayor, I have a relatively short presentation, and Maggie Ivy with the CVC is here this evening to answer any questions you have about this. You recall that I think it was about a year and a half ago, an original TMD was formed. It's a tourism marketing district, was formed under state law, which allowed, which required all the local hotels that met the criteria for the TMD to pay into it. The city administers the program for the CVC. We collect the payments and then pass the money back to the CVC. The CVC compensates the city 1% of the total receipts or the administrative costs, whichever are higher. The program has worked well from the city's standpoint over the last several years. Hasn't been a significant issue for us to collect the TMD. At this point, the CVC is now requesting a second TMD, and the intent behind this is it would backfill the public contributions that the CVC used to receive from the other cities around the county, as well as the county of Santa Cruz. Maggie is here for questions, and you are not tonight forming the TMD. You are merely giving your consent to allow the county to form a TMD over the city of Capitola.
Mike?
Do we incur significant admin costs and staff costs in the TMD we do now, or is it pretty effortless?
It's relatively effortless. I mean, there is work involved, but within the original project budget, I originally had concerns about that, and Maggie and I spent some time talking about that, and I looked for a little bit of a backstop if there was more work involved, that if it went beyond 1%. It hasn't so far.
Okay, good. That's all I want to know.
Any other questions of city manager at this time? Any questions of Maggie? Dennis?
I do.
Good evening, Maggie. Welcome.
Good evening, Mayor, council members.
Good evening, Maggie. When we approve this, will you support us when we go for 12% TOT in next election?
Well, I can't speak for all your lodging businesses in the area, but the CVC certainly would not oppose such an effort. We don't get involved with
Okay.
campaigns such as that.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions of Maggie? Would anyone like to make a motion?
Move staff approval, or move staff recommendation to approve?
Second.
Oh, come up. Certainly, you can come up and ask a question. This is a public hearing.
So we're going to have two of these things then? Or so why do we need two?
You want to answer that? To raise additional funds.
It's,
So the second TMD essentially is replacing any public funding that has formerly been provided to the CVC to promote tourism. So the lodging industry has committed to fund the tourism promotion efforts in full, and we won't be coming, as we're not this year, to the city of Capitola or any other jurisdiction in Santa Cruz County to help fund tourism promotion.
and Maggie, if I'm not mistaken, we classically were giving you like $25,000 a year. Last year, because of budget shortfall, we gave you 17,
Mm-hmm.
and this $1 a night per room is meant to cover that.
It's actually 50 cents a night additional. That's the second TMD,
really?
and it'll be in the neighborhood of that amount. So
The
it's a
first
fair
one-
share
the first
contribution.
one was $1, wasn't it?
Correct. If you
Okay.
were less than 30 units, which quite a few of the Capitola properties are.
Thank you very much.
So we're just...
Could you use the microphone and address it to the council?
I read this in the agenda stuff, and it's clear as mud what they're doing. And so I don't understand it.
Maybe you could step outside afterwards, and Maggie could talk to you about
she
it.
could explain it to me,
Yeah.
but I mean, if you're going to give agreement to this, is it going to raise what is already added on to, I mean, is it adding some money to the cost of a hotel in Capitola.
50 cents a night.
50 cents a night,
Right.
on top of the dollar
Right.
that's already there.
And it's a vehicle that's used in many, many cities and counties as a way to raise money for tourism promotion, to bring business that will also help the local economy. And a lot of times you don't even see it until you get your bill, and then it'll have a little line item there for $1 a night or $2 a night for
I
that.
would like to see, when y'all do these things, that if local residents had to stay in one of our hotels, like if you had to have your house tinted, that we didn't have to pay all this. Because I know you do it saying that it's on the tourist, okay? And sometimes the locals have a need for some of this stuff. And it would really be nice if you had a driver's license that said your residence was in Capitola, or that anything that's covered by this, that you didn't have to pay that. I know that it's, as y'all would say, because everything you extract from us, you say is an insignificant sum, to let the locals not have to pay it.
Thank you very much.
I think it wouldn't hurt us, if we could reach out to the several. There's only basically 3 major hotel owners in Capitola right now, and if we could ask them, rather than muck with the TMD, if we could get something worked out so that they have a locals discount, and when somebody checks in and shows their driver's license from Capitola, they just get them $50 off.
In Hawaii, that's called the Kama'aina rate.
The Kama'aina rate, that's right, the Capitola Kama'aina rate. Just an aside, and I think we moved and seconded already.
Dennis?
I have a question. The TOT ordinance in the city is not the same as it is in the county, or is it? There's different regulations of who has to pay TOT and the amounts, okay? In other words, let's just give an example of bed and breakfast. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, John, in the city of Santa Cruz, under a certain size of guest does not pay TOT tax, but over a certain size it does?
No, everybody does, even vacation rentals or something.
Even vacation rentals? Okay. Maybe I'm thinking the county.
I think it's everything less than 30 days.
Well, that's by definition transient occupancy under even state law.
I think the county has an ordinance where if there's under 3 residents or something, they don't collect TOT. Anyway, my question is that the fee that is paid and when it is governed and who has to pay it, is it based on the fact that we're already collecting TOT from them, and is that how the list of people who pay comes about in our city for this other tax?
If I understand your question correctly, yes, because we have a list of all TOT payers in the city. We also send out, remit the bill for the CVC for the TMD at the same time. There are exemptions in the TMD for the smaller hotel operators, but yes, we do send out the bill along with the TOT.
So 1% will cover, according to this, at 400,000, that's $4,000 a year, covers all of the billing and the payoffs and everything. Is that correct?
Again, I had that initial concern, and when we ended up looking at it, I believe it may be more than $4,000, but at the end of the day, we're sending out the billing to these same people. We're processing the billing. Really, there's not a lot of extra work that's involved. I can talk to my finance department and confirm that, but once we went into it, we realized that the amount of work, additional work, was not a significant drain.
Just to be, the 400,000 is for the entire district. It's not just Capitola's portion, is it correct? So we're only looking at a small percentage of that.
That's correct. I don't know what the Capitola what the revenue generates, but it hasn't been a huge, like I said, it hasn't been a huge workload on us.
What would it be just for Capitola, Maggie?
I don't know the exact figure. This year, I think the TMD is going to generate somewhere in the neighborhood of $120,000 from Capitola. So it would be maybe an additional, $25,000. And 1%. But it specifically says in the district plan that if the staff time exceeds 1%, the TMD will pay for that. So we've tried from our staff level to simplify it as much as possible. We've combined it, as the city manager indicated, to have the remittance happen at the same time the TOT does. If there's problems with people not it seems that the payments aren't jiving. We're not going to city staff saying, well, this doesn't make any sense. We're dealing with that directly, and just trying to minimize the impact. That concern was definitely brought up at the county level, too, when we went to set this up.
Is the county and the city of Santa Cruz doing 1%?
Yes.
And we don't have that many properties either that we're having to
Correct.
to bill and send notices out to.
Yeah, remember that it only affects the larger projects in Capitola, the larger hotel operators, and for those folks, we don't have a problem with TOT remittances. The TOT remittance, the challenge...
It only affects the larger ones.
There's an exemption for the smaller operators.
For TMD, not TOT.
For TMD. Right. Yeah,
Okay, so it isn't the same list that we operate off of then?
We use our list, but we don't send every single TOT payee a TMD bill.
Okay.
Does that help?
That helps. Thank you.
Yeah.
And that's the same in Santa Cruz. Any hoteler that has less than 5 units does not pay the TMD, but they do pay the transient occupancy.
Okay, thank you, John. That answers my question. Okay.
Any other questions? I think we have a motion and a second. Sue, do you have that?
Yes, Councilmember Termini made the motion, and Councilmember Story made the second.
Oh, thank you. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much for that. The next item is consider a framework for review of the parking meter programs.
Wouldn't be fun if we didn't talk about parking meter rates at some point.
Yes.
So at the last council meeting, Councilmember Bottorff asked the Traffic and Parking Commission to make various recommendations related to the traffic of the parking meter program. And I think that was, at the time, we believed the Coastal Commission was going to grant us authority in their June meeting to make changes without doing a local coastal plan amendment. Currently, to make a change in our rates or our areas, we have to do a local coastal plan amendment. We have an ordinance that we adopted in January before them. It removes that from the local coastal plan, but that's not going to be heard by the Coastal Commission now until August. So what I'm presenting here is kind of a framework that will allow us and the Traffic and Parking Commission to determine when to make the rate recommendations to the council. First thing, and probably the most important, is that we have a ordinance in place. Let me back up again. Besides the coastal the LCP amendments, State Vehicle Code does require us that we list our areas and meter rates by ordinance. So what we're doing essentially is we're taking out from one ordinance that's in our LCP, and we're going to create a second ordinance that isn't in our LCP that will have the meter rates and zones in it. So when we go to modify it the next time, we'll have to issue ourselves a coastal development permit and a meter meter ordinance. So what we're recommending now is, in order to have the Lower Pacific Cove parking lot, which is currently not in a meter zone, in a meter zone when we hopefully opens in the end of August, is that we will bring an ordinance amendment to the council in June that will be effective upon adoption of the first ordinance by the Coastal Commission sometime in the middle of August, and then late August it'll be in effect. And then at that point we will come back with recommendations from the Traffic Committee on rates, area changes, besides the area change in Pacifico parking lot. All this means that we have to adopt an ordinance, which we would adopt in September, so we're not looking at having new rates in place until this winter. Part of me thinks that's not such a bad thing, not to change rates in the middle of summer, although I'm sure we'd like to make some changes earlier. Right now, I think this is the best schedule we can have. So it's a little convoluted. We still have an ordinance we have to adopt. We're getting it out of the LCP. That's the good thing. This time next year, it'll be much clearer, and we apologize we're not be able to do it before the summer. So that's my whole report, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Michael.
Right now, our hearing at the Coastal Commission is only to add the Lower Pacific Cove to our LCP, correct?
No.
Did they not, at a previous hearing, grant us the ability to change our rates?
No, that is what's before the Coastal Commission right now, is the ability to change our rates and change our areas.
Okay.
Unfortunately, they've had that hearing pending for nearly 9 months now.
And so what we're going for is the ability to raise and/or lower, depending on the season, our rates without having to go to the Coastal Commission after the August hearing.
That's correct.
That's our desire.
We will still need to do an ordinance amendment, but it will
Right.
not be part of an LCP amendment.
Slightly rational for Coastal Commission, but we'll see what they do anyway.
Future councils will be very happy that they don't, and staff members will be very happy that they don't have to do that, because that's very cumbersome. Questions, Sam?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. If there are delays by the Coastal Commission, does that impact our ability to set rates at the lower Petco when it opens at the end of August?
Potentially, yes, without
So
having...
we could have a parking lot with no rates.
Yeah, it would, without the approval of right now, we couldn't add that area without a local coastal plan amendment. So if they don't approve that ordinance prior to opening it up, we would potentially not be able
We
to charge
hired
them.
Gabriel to collect money? As people come and go?
Nobody would get out without paying.
There may be a little bit of a legal question if we were to adopt a local ordinance for an area that wasn't covered at all in our LCP, whether or not we could collect rates on it. And if it came to pass that we had to take a look at that, we could research it. I hope they've committed to us several times that they're going to get this hearing done. So I hope that they get it done in August and we don't have to.
We could lease the property to
Well,
someone.
I think we should be prepared for Plan B
Yeah.
in the event
We'll do some research as
Right.
we're preparing the next ordinance that you're going to see in June and have some answers for you
Certainly,
on that.
the pressure is off after, October, so
Right, well,
we have some, because I know if we gave it to Gabriel, he'd get 600 cars in there.
Dennis?
Steve, it's my understanding that the direction to the Parking and Circulation Committee is to address Pacifico parking costs, village raised rates if possible, and the potential of parking in the Cherry Avenue areas. Is that correct? Is that what the direction is to them?
And they're also looking at the time limits in the third hour in the village.
Okay. And when do you expect to get something back from them on your timeline?
Well, originally they were aiming for, a June Coastal Commission hearing, so they were in their first meeting in July, hoping to have recommendations ready for you. I think I'll meet with the chairman of the Traffic and Parking Commission and kind of revise our schedule, but right now it would be coming in September.
Okay.
And we're not here to discuss rates tonight, but I'm seeing from your schedule that the first meeting in September is the time that we'll really focus on any changes up or down around town or additional parking zones.
Correct.
Okay. The Cherry Avenue issue, does that pose any problems with your Coastal Commission application? Or we're just hoping to get the ability to do it in August and just throw Cherry Avenue into it if necessary? Okay.
Yeah, we'll
'Cause
have...
I think I recognize the chair of the Parking Commission in the audience that may
Might be
want to
here.
address us. As nondescript and unrecognizable as he may be.
Good evening.
Good evening. I'm Nelson Westman. I am the chair of your Traffic and Parking Commission. And we've already had one meeting that we've started working on preparing some recommendations regarding the issues that the council raised for us to study. And as Steve correctly pointed out, we were trying to get it done in time to report back in July. But if we have the luxury of not having to report back to September, we'd really appreciate it because it's a big topic. Let's see. Your question was specifically about possibly installing meters on the back streets of the village, Cherry?
Well, I just wanted to make sure that by our actions at the Coastal Commission, that just adding Cherry wouldn't send us back to the Coastal Commission. I wanted to make sure that we left you that latitude should you recommend to the council that that should be a parking area, parking zone.
Well, I don't feel qualified to answer that. I'm sure Steve has a better answer.
He has already, and he's in the affirmative. It's either way. It depends on what we decide and what you recommend.
Okay. We will make a recommendation, for sure.
Steve, if we're going to get reading from the Coastal Commission in September, why do we wait till then to make a decision on what we want to do? In other words, we could be in process. The Traffic and Circulation Committee, we gave them 2 months, and it comes back to council in September, and we discussed the 3 changes we're suggesting, and we've already got approval from the Coastal Commission to make that change without their blessing. I don't think there's any need to push this into winter again. I think we can, the 3-hour limit, those kind of issues should be dealt with as soon as possible. You know, it seems like a long time to me just to go to the end of summer, but pushing it out till the next year is whole nother issue. So.
Well, we're recommending we come back in September. I guess I have concerns about getting ahead of the Coastal Commission and having discussions with something that we don't have authority to make changes yet. But the 3rd hour is something we could discuss. That is not part of our LCP.
Well, the worst case scenario would be that we have to take those changes to the Coastal Commission. That would be the worst case scenario. The best case scenario is we have approval from the Coastal Commission, and then at the time that we as a council have already approved it, that we're ready to go with that. I'm just seeing that if we wait till September, we're really in the next year before we initiate any of these changes. But
It sounds like the best possible timeline would be to pick up the Art and Wine Festival. That would probably be because even if we push it up to the 2nd meeting in August, it's only pulling us back 2 weeks.
We'll still have an ordinance which takes 2 hearings. It doesn't go into effect for 30 days anyway.
That's the problem.
We're not going to make the summer. I mean, sorry to say that.
It would be nice to get the pay stations in for part of the summer because they'll give us some extra money.
They were ordered today.
And I would say that bring it to us when you're ready. You know, we can't say July or August or September, whenever you're ready, whenever the committee's ready.
And, you know, I think I heard Steve say that without, not part of our LCP is the 3-hour limit. Maybe that's something we want to agendize earlier. Is that true?
The 3-hour limit is not in our LCP. That is true.
It may not be something we want to do until we hear a read from the parking and traffic.
Well, why don't you address that first, Nelson? Can you address that issue first, and then we can move forward with that?
We definitely can. We had actually scheduled a special June meeting, which we were not scheduled to have, because we felt we needed that time to pull something together by July. We were trying to decide whether now it would be necessary advisable to cancel that, but we can keep it scheduled and just specifically address the time limit on the village if that's the wish of the council, and have a recommendation for you in July.
Yeah.
We should agendize it.
And then once we know that the parking and traffic is ready for that report and those recommendations, we can agendize it and get it in the summer.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Very much. Any other questions or discussion about this?
We got some other people in the audience.
It's a public hearing. Please come up and talk. Give us your thoughts about this. Good evening.
Good evening, everybody. Hi, my name is Linda Wadley, and my husband Tim and I are full-time residents and homeowners in Capitola. We moved here about 2 years ago after we decided that the charming, picturesque, lovely village of Capitola was where we wanted to retire. We bought an old home on Cherry Avenue and proceeded to do a full-blown remodel, both inside and out, with all the right permits for everything. We made a significant investment in improving our home and our residential neighborhood, and we didn't make this investment to enhance a commercial business area. Besides the addition of even more signage in our area, the parking stations would destroy the residential character and neighborhood feel of our Cherry Avenue area. We understand the need for more revenue is a constant battle, but let's not sacrifice the charm and allure of our Capitola neighborhoods to make this happen. At some point, if the village becomes too commercial, we can drive tourists and visitors away, and I don't believe anybody here would really want the pay stations in their neighborhood either. Thank you very much for hearing me.
Thanks. And the Parking and Traffic Committee meetings are open to the public if you want to go to those.
Okay. Thank you.
I have a question. You know, it was my understanding that one of the driving forces behind doing parking on Cherry Avenue was to stop it from being parked by employees and, you know, the village having it fill up. Is Cherry Avenue a permit-only area?
No, it is. I think it's a 2-hour parking limit.
we might want to poll.
But it's free parking.
Maybe the parking commission might want to speak to some of the Cherry neighbors and see maybe that's a perfect permit area, because everything I've been hearing is it's overparked.
Well, it is part of the village permit area.
Right.
But it's not permit-only parking. Just to be clear.
No, I understand.
Okay, all right.
I'm just trying to lighten the load on a Cherry, because they are seriously impacted by incidental parking.
Councilmember Termini, I would point out that we are not going to be able to take changes to the permit zones out of the LCP. So that will always require Coastal Commission approval, and the Coastal Commission looks askance at expansions of resident-only parking areas, I can assure you. Just so we don't get any false hopes up.
I understand.
Would anyone else from the public like to speak? Good evening.
Hello. I'm still using Sandy Erickson. I agree with this lady. I think that they should be allowed to keep their, Cherry Avenue is really a residential section. And I think what we would garner with the few meters that we'd put in there is not worth the ill will and the bad looks that it would create for that neighborhood.
Thank you very much. Would anyone else like to speak? I'll close the public hearing, bring it back to the council. Dennis?
I'd like to make a motion, and I may not ever receive a second, but it's going to make the Public Works Director very happy, and the city manager fall out of his chair.
Right.
So I'll make a motion that remove all parking meters from the city of Capitola.
Would anyone else like to make a motion?
No, but I hear crickets.
Would anyone like to make a motion? Well, actually, we're just receiving this information.
It does ask you for approve a schedule, and if you want us to return earlier with a 3-hour recommendation, that would be good direction to receive.
I will make a motion to approve the schedule with the direction to, at the schedule of the Parking and Traffic Committee, bring us back any information on expanding the 2-hour limit.
Second.
Sounds perfect. Thank you.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Item E, consider sending a letter in opposition of Assembly Bill 5.
Wait a minute, we were out of order there because I made a motion. He did a substitute motion.
Yes.
So we have to address my
You
motion.
just didn't get a second.
You never got a second.
It failed for. He said, and I was tempted, Dennis. I was tempted.
I'd like to know what the financial figures are there on that. What it would cost us.
A lot. Consider sending a letter in opposition of Assembly Bill 5 by Tom Amiano, the Homeless Bill of Rights.
Madam Chair, Madam Mayor, council members, number one is this is an Assembly bill proposed by Amiano that called the Homeless Person Bill of Rights and Fairness Act. And the item for consideration tonight is to have the mayor send a letter in opposition to the Homeless Bill of Rights. The point I want to make at the outset here is that the city has taken a number of proactive steps and supports all sorts of homeless services throughout the Santa Cruz region and within the city of Capitola. This is not in any sense intended to target individuals. Frankly, it's the other way around. It's that this proposed bill would create specific rights that other people are not afforded but would be afforded to homeless people. For example, every city in the state of California would be required to maintain health and hygiene centers that were available 24 hours a day. It would require complex and long new reports to the state regarding numerous types of infractions. In addition, it would allow for camping and public assembly, really limit the city's ability to regulate uses on public property. In addition, it would establish specific punitive damages and give essentially lawyers an opportunity to sue over this and make a lot of money. So the recommendation tonight is to authorize the mayor to send a letter in opposition. This bill is opposed by the California League of Cities, as well as the California State Sheriff's Association, the California Police Chiefs Association as well. Available for questions.
And a long list of other cities and organizations that were attached to one of the letters. Are there questions?
Well, just do we have a read on how our local assembly person is positioned on this bill?
I understand that our local assembly person did vote for the matter to can move it out of committee. I don't know how it'll do out of committee.
We should CC him.
That's Mark Stone,
Yeah,
correct?
we should CC him.
Yes. We will CC him on the letter.
And we should probably CC our senator also.
I have a
Yes.
question of the chief.
Chief.
Yes.
Hi, Chief. In my reading of this, it pretty much ties the hands of a police department to take any action. It literally allows the front lawn of City Hall to become a campsite with nothing that we could do, whatever,
That's correct, and it also affects some areas of private property as well.
such as the mall,
That's correct.
any place of assembly,
That's,
private or public.
that is correct.
Thank you.
There are 2 additional bills that are being proposed that actually are more supportive, which the California Police Chiefs Association is supporting, but not this particular bill.
Thank you.
This is a public hearing. Would anyone like to speak on this issue?
I'll just register since I'm here. I think y'all definitely ought to not send a letter and don't support this.
Send a letter in opposition.
Opposition to this, yes.
Okay. Thank you very much. Assemblymember Amiano is a former supervisor in the city county of San Francisco.
Are we back to
Yes.
the council?
Get back to the close the public hearing and back to the council.
I really had to scratch my head when I heard about this and had to read it so my eyes would believe what my mind was telling me. And I couldn't for the life of me understand why anyone in their right mind would put such a punitive bill in place, literally changing the tone, the ability for any police department in any city in the state to do anything. And after speaking to a few of the people who were in support of this, my sense is that it wasn't necessarily to have people camping. It was to put the homeless in front of our face, as opposed to being ignored and pushed away. So I think in many ways it's symbolic, and if it should pass, which I don't believe it will, to bring the problem that we have, and it's our problem, whether we want to ignore it or not, squarely in front of us, and no longer hiding, no longer, pushed away, set into shelters, what have you. But it's a big problem, needs to be addressed. I will support the letter because I think it's a dangerous bill. When my police chief tells me that he cannot do his job, and I believe he will not be able to if this passes, that's enough for me. But I think that it bears noting that there's a reason why bills like this come up, and it is because of the frustration with not paying attention to the problem that exists.
Well, I'll second the motion, and even
Is that a
more-
motion, Mike?
That was a motion.
Yeah, I'll second that motion, and because I really believe this is a misguided attempt to put homelessness in our face. There are other ways that they could have presented this, because this is the potential for creating a great deal of conflict between local residents and the homeless population, local communities and state government, and then bringing in the legal system into this mix. I really share your sentiments, Mike. I don't understand the motivation for it, and it just seems a rather destructive way to deal with the issue of homelessness. There are better ways, in my view, of how we could bring better light on, the serious situation of homelessness and ways to address that condition. But this is certainly not it. I'm amazed that this even got out of committee. But I would agree we need to CC Assemblyman Stone and let them know in no uncertain terms. And I saw there's a constant erosion of local control that it seems to take place. In my years up here, I see it over and over again. This is just another example of it. And this kind of, blanket statewide regulations, it just doesn't work, not in our community and many other communities throughout California. So for that reason, I second the motion and will support the motion.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. That's our last item. We have now time for council and staff communications. Are there any? I have one. Be sure and visit the museum if you haven't been to the museum. It's fabulous. Treasurer comments.
Is there going to be a committee report, a FACT committee report tonight?
the FACT committee report comes out and the recommendation, I think it's scheduled for the next budget hearing.
Okay. Okay, so I just wanted to share a few comments in response to the meeting that we had. I thought it was an excellent meeting, and there was a lot of great exchanges of ideas. One of the topics that we spent quite a bit of time on was what to do with the $1 million settlement for Pack Cove. And after quite a lengthy discussion, one great suggestion came up from actually Council Member Termini on how to possibly utilize those funds to find some long-term financing and a reduction on the 3.25% loan that we took out actually because we didn't get the funds initially from the insurance company. So anyway, I thought it was a great meeting, and I wanted people to know that we are discussing that, and if you have any comments, it's a good time to share them with your council members and any suggestions on how you might want that $1 million allocated.
By the way, just so if you're wondering, my suggestion was to give me the money. I'll go to Vegas. Trust me, I'm bringing back more money.
Black or red? Black or red?
And just on a side note, if anyone is interested, the Finance Advisory Committee will be meeting also on Tuesday at 6 o'clock.
Can I,
Yes,
can I
ma'am.
just, under comments, I wanted to ask about the work on Park Avenue. And I noticed, Stephen, they seem to be done. The street was open, but the signs were left up, and then they came back. And so are they scheduled to be done on June the 1st? And when they are done, are those signs going to come down promptly?
Yeah, so they replaced the sewer main on Park Avenue, and then they went and worked on Cabrillo and Wesley. During working on Cabrillo and Wesley, they opened Park Avenue up. Then they had to come back to Park Avenue and actually reconnect the private sewer lateral from the old main to the new main. That was a different crew, I think, that they brought in. So that's why they went back and started working on Park Avenue again. They are scheduled to have all the pipeline work done by the end of May. And then they do need to come in and slurry seal all the roads that they worked on and restripe them for us. That's going to be sometime in June. We're actually trying to coordinate it with our own slurry seal project. So that is the schedule right now.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that update.
We did work with them to send out a revised schedule to the residents, put some door hangers out there, because I think schedule had slipped and we wanted to keep everybody updated.
Sure. Okay.
I also did want to point out, if you haven't noticed, that Pack Cove is nearly devoid of coaches at this point. I think there's only 1 or 2 left. So if you haven't had a chance to walk through it or staff's available, it's an interesting space now.
Spacious.
It's spacious. There's a lot of room down there.
Kind of like a park, huh?
It almost looks like a park. First
lot.
word in parking lot is park.
Are there any other staff announcements or comments, or council comments or announcements?
Oh, yeah, I have a quick one. The schedule on the Highway 1 improvements. July 20th, all lanes will be open. September 10th, the La Fonda Bridge will be completed, and they will be out of the area. And then they start moving towards Phase 3, which will be from that section to 41st Avenue. Is the next section. And they're already planning for that. That starts in early winter of 2014.
Any other public comments?
Y'all are going to be so tired of hearing from me, but that's okay. I just wanted to, Mayor Harlan, Council, take this opportunity. As you know, thank God, Measure S failed, in spite of all you supporting it. And I heard that you're having your joint meeting with the school board. I wish the school board ran their meetings like you run these. That is a piece of work. I went the other night. I would encourage, and the school board is going to be back to ask for this parcel tax again, And I'm speaking now to the residents of Capitola who might be listening too. They have vowed to come back, and I'm sure that they will. They think it's just a terrible, terrible travesty that they didn't get more of our money. But I think that this council should take into consideration the fact that at every turn, that school board has spit in our eye for at least the last 10 years. And I think any sham of trying to act supportive of them does not serve us well. And I think if the citizens of Capitola are listening and paying attention, we have a good chance of defeating any additional property tax they might come up with. And so I would just hope that when it does come around again that y'all would think about that. Because I went to the meeting, I clearly know for a fact that they do have one narrative for the public and another narrative for their unions and their employees. And so it is what it is. But I appreciate the opportunity to ask you that and to have this forum and to hopefully be talking to lots of people in Capitola who do not want their property tax raises. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments or announcements? Then we are adjourned to the next meeting, which will be a special budget study session with the council and the successor agency on Thursday, May 30th at 6 p.m. right here. Thank you all very much, and good night.